Oh, what's up, everybody? Let me get the webcam going. All right, all right. Morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's the 4th of July. If you're from the U.S., happy 4th of July to you guys. Happy Independence Day. The streams do not stop, you guys. We are still going on the 4th of July. Hope you guys are having a good one. Hope you guys have been safe and healthy. Um, yeah. I know it's been a crazy week. We've been working on a lot of fun stuff at Corridor. Got a couple of videos that came out. We got the Stuntmen React coming out a couple hours ago actually with Aaron Tony, super nice guy, and Ren's 360 God camera came out yesterday, I think. And I'm still working on that Domino's video, man. There's so many VFX on that, but yeah, it's a good time. Thank you for joining. Thank you for hopping on in here, guys. We're doing something very interesting today, which was definitely inspired by man, I wish I had the original link here. Basically, there's a video going around where someone like opens up an electrical socket and there's this hidden world inside from like behind the electrical socket. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I think this is it. And you go in here and there's like a little tiny room inside. And I think this guy has like a whole bunch of these. These are so cool. Definitely gets me going. Mozu, it looks like his name is. Yeah, check out Mozu. And yeah, I guess he does all these like little tiny little craft projects like this. And this gets me super amped and very, very creative. And I want to do something very similar inside of Cinema 4D. So I shot this footage. The link to the footage is actually in the description if you guys want to check that out and do this yourself. But let me get going on the single monitor, and you guys can see if I scrub through here, very similar. I just open up this kind of electrical outlet and zoom up into what will be, a 3D tracked world. Whatever we want to do. It could be a room, it could be an outdoor scene, it could be literally anything. But we'll figure that out once we track it. So that's the first thing, is figuring out how to track this. Yes, I did shoot it on a phone, so that was on purpose. I wanted to make it feel as natural as possible. And I kind of zoomed in here to get up in here to see, definitely give some parallax so that we can actually move around our 3D world. And we'll comp it right inside. So this is going to be a fun one. All this we don't need to track. It's just from this point on, when I open up, boom, this little panel is when we'll need to track it. So we can start the track from like back here. Maybe frame like 100 or something. And we'll go as far as we need to go. So, inside of Cinema, they actually have like a really powerful camera tracker. It's really, really cool, and it's got some really nice features that I wish other trackers had. The After Effects tracker is nice. It's definitely like the fastest and easiest one to use, but it doesn't always yield the best results. And I always find that, like, for me, I like to use different camera trackers. Just if one can't achieve what I'm going for, then I'll go to the next one. And I usually work between After Effects tracker, Cinema 4D tracker, and Buju. Those are like my three that I'll switch between. Yeah, for those of you guys who don't know, I did a SIGGRAPH presentation that'll be coming out later this month with Maxon. And I'm talking about the entire workflow process from like when you're going for photoreal CG elements composited into live action footage. It's the whole workflow. And it always starts with, obviously shooting your footage, but once you've shot your footage, we want to track that footage, right? We want to get a virtual camera of that tracked footage. So in Cinema, if you go to the layout up here, you can drop this down and go to the motion tracker layout, and you're presented with some new buttons and everything, and some new panels and whatnot. And this is actually really, really handy. And there's a lot of cool things and cool features that I want to talk about. So right over here to the right, double click to create a motion tracker object. So I'm just going to double click that, and it creates this motion tracker object up here with some options down here. So we could either load our footage in manually, or we could just double click here to select the footage once again. So I'll do that, load the footage in, and if we scrub, you can see we have every single frame, right? It puts it together. And what's cool is like you can actually navigate around this view, because since we're in 2D view up here, we can navigate around this view like you would in Cinema, zooming in, moving points and stuff. And if you hit H, it'll snap it back to full screen mode. Really, really handy. So, like I said, we don't need to track all this beginning stuff. So let's save ourselves some time here. Let's just go to frame 100. I'm going to trim my sequence, frame 100. And under the footage tab, we'll start at frame 100. And I don't know if we need to go all the way. Like it kind of blurs out here. I can just call it at like frame 490. So we'll trim it there. We'll go frame 490. And that will be our in and out section there. No, down here you can see that we can cache frames and everything. So it says 364 of 606 frames cached. If we hit play, it will basically cache all of those frames for you so that you can scrub through your footage pretty easily. Now, if you're dealing with like 4K footage or even 5K footage and you're trying to track that, you can resample it. So resampling right now is set to 100, meaning it's not downsampling anything. But if I set this to 50%, it'll take my 720 by 1280 comp and it'll downsample it to 360 by 640. But 100 is good for us, right? So the next thing that we'll want to do, first off, are you guys following here? Well, give me a little thumbs up if you guys are following along. I'm going to crack open one of these kombuchas. But yeah, the C4D tracker is actually really, really cool. I honestly hadn't used it much before the SIGGRAPH presentation. And it kind of forced me to learn it and learn the ins and outs of it. And there are things I really like about it. Sweet. All right, you guys are good. And I'm going to try and keep up with this chat as best as possible. You know, I need to try and focus on the lesson, but at the same time, you know, I'll keep my eye on the chat. And why do I drink so much kombucha? Dude, because it's good for you. And I love the flavor. You know, get as much ginger in your system as possible. It's good for that healthy gut biome. I don't know. That's what they say, at least. I'm not a scientist. I don't know, but I do try and keep my drinks and my food as healthy as possible. Okay, so we have our footage loaded in, right? Let's go over to the 2D tracking tab, and we're on the automatic tracking section. You can go to manual tracking and add all these manual points, but we're going to stay on auto track. Now, this is pretty much set up so that we can just hit auto track and it'll start doing its thing. And what's cool about the C4D tracker is that it tracks forward and backwards at the same time, as you can see by these two arrows. You can track backwards, but you can track forwards, but you can also do both. It'll kind of go back and then back towards the center point to ensure like the best possible track. You can up the number of tracks. So you can take this 300, I don't know, we can go to like 450 or something. And another tip for you guys, let's say you have a shot where like, if it starts here, let's say it starts here, and then it moves out of frame. What's a better example? Okay, so maybe this shot's probably not the best example, but if you have like, let's say you're panning across a landscape and you're panning across certain features that will never be seen again in that frame, like you're panning and you pass a mountain, the mountain passes frame left and it never comes back. Basically, like, you're going to lose those tracking points. So what you want to do is like go through your footage and you can hit create auto tracks, and that'll populate your scene with these automatic trackers. but it's just for that little frame right there, you know? And you're going to want to go through and just populate this with auto tracks. You can do that if you're afraid of like losing certain tracking points. Did you guys hear Gilbert? He's meowing up a storm. I'm going to undo that though. I'm going to undo those tracks because we don't need them. We can just hit auto track and it's going to work. So we upped our tracks from 300 to 450. So there's a couple more points that it's looking at, and I'm just going to hit auto track. And if you guys are ever wondering if Cinema 4D is thinking or lagging or is it working, just look in the bottom left down here and you'll see it's processing these frames. It's counting up to 490, and then it's going to count back down and then back up again. So it's just scanning through all the frames. So yeah, we're back into C4D right now. I've been working on my Unreal Engine. I'd like to actually create a cool scene with you guys next week. So next week we'll be back in Unreal Engine learning the ins and outs, or not the ins and outs. Say it like I know the program. We'll be learning what I have learned so far. I am certainly not, I'm not even at an intermediate point in Unreal Engine. I'm still a beginner. So, but I still want to jump in and share all my knowledge with you guys because I really believe it is the future. So next week we'll be doing Unreal Engine and trying to make a cool scene with that. Okay, you guys can't see the footage when you load it up. Maybe you need to actually click the motion tracker. Maybe that's what it is. If you actually click this. But I haven't run into that problem. So that's about as far as I can help you with that. Okay, so you guys can see we have all of these 2D tracks. These are not 3D yet. They're still just 2D tracks. And you can see they have these little tails on them. You can zoom in, right, and come around here and see their paths. The tail is the path, and the actual diamond is the tracking point. Now, this can get a little bit difficult to see. So if I'm going to hit H and snap back to full frame here, okay? And what you could do is go to 2D tracking and go to options, okay? And under options, under display, you can change this track display to show tracks. And that's just going to be the diamond itself. And this is still very difficult for me to see. So I'll go back to footage and I'll take the brightness down to like 25%. And that way you can actually see what the heck is going on with your 3D track. Okay. So now what we need to do is take these 2D tracks and convert them into 3D points. So what we'll do here is we're going to go to the 3D solve area. And the first time I did this, I just ran the 3D solver. It's basically all you need to do. But it gave me some weird focal length. It was like 140 for my focal length. And I know that's not the case because I shot this on my iPhone. So I went to Google real quick and I just, Googled the specs for the iPhone focal length. And it says the rear camera is 28 millimeters. So it's a 28 millimeter lens. And that should mean that if I type 28, right, in the camera settings, I change focal length to known and constant, and I change the focal length to 28. It should get a more accurate representation or a more accurate track. If you actually know your focal length, if you shot it with like your DSLR or something, that's always really good info to plug in to the 3D tracker, because the more... Oh, goodness, Gilbert, come on, bud. I don't even know what view... What am I looking at here? God dang. I don't even know what happened, guys. What view am I in? What just happened? Dude, when you got cats and keyboards, man, they do not go well together. Jeez, sabotage. Gilbert's meowing because, I don't know. Who knows why this little bud's meowing. Let's Oh, he changed my view. Okay, here we go. Thanks, Gilbert. All right. So yeah, we need to convert these into 3D points. So we got our focal length, 28 millimeters. The more truths you can plug into this, the better. And let's go ahead and just run the solver and see what happens. Actually, real quick, before we do that, if there are any 2D tracks that are slipping and sliding around, we'll want to delete those, because it's basing our 3D solve off of these 2D points, and the more accurate these 2D points are, the better. So I think what I'm going to do, you see how the door is moving here? And all these points are moving with the door. I want to go ahead and delete the points that are moving with the door. So I'm going to wait until it stops and then just delete all of these points. I'm going to select all these points. And it'll repopulate. You know, these points will certainly repopulate. But I'm going to just go ahead and delete all of these that move with this door. And then let's go to the moment before and just make sure all those points are deleted. Like this guy here. And then you'll see it starts to repopulate here, which is great. Now this point here, you can see, boom. Once you select a point, you get this window over here and you can actually track it. So it certainly has a mind of its own. It starts moving around after that point, and it just kind of goes off and disappears. So we'll want to delete that one too. We don't want to base our 3D track off of some janky 2D points, you know what I mean? Now you don't have to do this for everything because, you know, we'll be here till next Christmas. But if you just do a quick scan of stuff, like I'm seeing these 2 points down here, those are floating, I'll delete those. Anything that starts floating, you'll want to go ahead and delete those. And I'm sure there's like a number that I'm missing here, but you know, we're doing our best. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and save. This will be tracking. And let's go ahead and run our 3D solver with our focal length plugged in. And once again, it's gonna be thinking down in the bottom left down here. And it'll take a couple minutes. In the meantime, if you guys got any questions, I am happy to answer. And what's cool about the cinema tracker is that once you track your scene, you're going to have to optimize it, right? So that means the program wants to know which way is up, which way is left and right, which way is, you know, which axis is the Z axis. You basically need to tell where's the Y axis, where's the X and Z axis, right? So that it knows where it is in 3D space. And then you also need to tell it the scale, so it knows the scale of, say, you know, like this electrical outlet. Mr. Boko, my favorite ice cream would have to be coffee ice cream. It is quite delicious. Tracking in C4D, is it better than After Effects? I'd say it has a lot more options. It has way more options. So it's much more of a built-out tracker than the After Effects tracker. The After Effects tracker is good for like quick tracks, and I'm wondering if the After Effects tracker can track this. I bet it can, to be honest with you. And it's actually it's a little bit more difficult to use simply because it doesn't have that many features. You can't tweak that many things. And optimizing it, or you know, setting the correct orientation for your scene is a bit more difficult and a bit more like you're kind of putting a blindfold on and you're doing it with a blindfold is the way it feels. But our 3D solve just finished. Let's take a look at it. All right. So if I click off and then I scrub, we can see we have some points here. Green points are good. Red points are not so sure about themselves. but the green points are feeling a lot better. Okay, so this isn't bad, but let's go ahead and just see, let's optimize this, because as you can see, our grid view here is way off. If I were to spawn a cube, like, we're inside the cube. No good. We want the origin point not to be inside of our camera, but we want the origin point to be sitting flush with this this outlet here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll leave this cube sitting here so you guys can actually see what we're about to do. I'll hit the motion tracker and we'll go ahead and save our scene. And now that it's been 3D solved, you can you have a couple more options down here. Actually, specifically this option right here, the create position constraint. And if you hold that down, you have 3 other constraints or 2 others that you can make. But we'll start with position to get our origin, right? So create position constraint, I have it selected. You can see we have a little constraint button here. And all we need to do is select one of these 2D points that we want our to be our origin. So let's see. Let's have this point right here be our origin. And if I click away, you can see the cube has been moved there, but it's not oriented properly. But it is sitting at that spot. That's our origin now. That's our 0, 0. So if we want to spawn like a person, that person is going to be sitting right there, right in frame. But again, they're not oriented properly, so we need to adjust that. Real quick before we move on, I just want to talk about this position constraint. So once we've created it, you can see there's this little constraint. What would this be? It's not a modifier, it's like a constraint tag that has been created. And the mode by default is set feature to position. The feature is the 2D point we selected. It's this 2D point, that's the feature. And it says feature to position. And the position is whatever we put in. And in this case, by default, it's set to 0, 0, 0. So that's the origin point. Now, if we hold this down, we can make a vector constraint as well. And the vector constraint is basically a line. So we want to choose 2 points along the y-axis or the z or the x and define which axis that is so that our grid starts to line up and starts to orient properly. And what's cool is because, yeah, Cinema has it all built in. You don't have to do it in another program. It's all just in one program. So let's find points that can be our y-axis. There's a lot of points along this little bit here. So I'm going to just select 1 and I'll select 2. And this is kind of a trial and error process. We'll have to see if it sticks. But we have our y-axis and a new constraint tag was created. And under the axis box here, we'll set that to y. And now you can see our grid just aligned itself. So I'm going to scrub through and make sure, yep, that looks correct. And I'll go to the end, and it actually, that looks correct. All right, so if we click away, we bring our box back in, we can see it starting to get a little bit closer to the right orientation. So this is good. Now what we'll do next up here is we need to set another axis. We need to set the z-axis or the x-axis. In this case, I think the x will work the best, simply because there's not much z. Z goes into deep space, right? Z will go will create depth, right? But the x is like left and right. Okay, so we have that left and right data that we need. Let's select the motion tracker. What would this be? The motion tracker object. We'll select that, and we're going to find some 2D points that are along the x-axis, like this one, and maybe maybe this one. And that's a little off. I'm going to undo that. So let's try, maybe we zoom in here and see what's going on. I want to find 2 good points that stick Okay, let's try this one and this one. And we'll say that is our x-axis. And let's see if it sticks. So I'm going to go to the beginning. It looks like, see how it's off a little bit? Right? You can see how that's off. So that's no good. And then we'll go to the end, and it's kind of still off. So let's click away just to see what our cube is doing. And it's not bad, but it's not the best. So let's try undoing that again. And let's see if we can't find another 2 points that work for us here. Maybe these two. Let's try that as X. And I'll scrub to the beginning. That looks like it sticks. And I'll scrub to the end, and it got off again. It got off again. So that's no good. We'll want to undo that. I'll try one more. And if one more doesn't work, then I'll do it manually. And I'll show you guys how to do that. So let's see here. All right. Let's find some points. Maybe like this one and this one. We'll set that as X. And we'll scrub and see if that works. Looks like it's working in the beginning. And it looks like it kinda is doing a thing at the end. That's not bad. Let's bring the cube back in, and I'm actually gonna flatten the cube so we have a better representation of like what this is actually doing and how it's actually sitting here. All right, that's not bad at all. I think the track is fine. It's just the orientation I think needs to be tweaked a little bit. So what we'll do is I'm going to grab the motion tracker, and I'm going to put it inside of a null object, and I'm going to rotate that null object so that everything lines up perfectly. So I'm going to hold Alt and drop a null into it. And by holding Alt, you make the motion tracker a child of the null object. And let's go to coordinates, and we'll just rotate it along the x-axis like this when it lines up looking nice. And then we can scrub through our footage and see that it actually is sitting pretty nice right inside of that little electrical socket. Now that 28 millimeter that I typed in, it might be a little extreme just because like the iPhone I'm sure is doing some cropping, so it may be more closer to like a 30 or something. It's hard to tell. It's hard to say. But I think for our purposes, this will be okay. This will totally work. So we'll click away. And let's hide these auto features. Awesome. Now let's just create. No, okay, here's another thing. We have scale to think about, okay? That's a 2-meter cube. But at the same time, like we are creating a huge world. We don't want our huge world to be massive and to scale because that'd just be ridiculous. We want to scale everything down. So maybe what we'll do, let's get rid of the cube. Let's bring that person back in. And let's say how big do we want a person to be in our small little CG world here? Yeah, so you see how like the 28 millimeter lens is like these lines are not correct. So maybe what we'll do is take this world and just adjust it a little bit like this. And we'll see if that does anything for us. Yeah, I mean, like we could go back and probably change the focal length of the camera. But I'm planning on actually making this an exterior scene. Like it'd be cool to do like a little construction yard or something. So I'm gonna roll with this since we don't have all the time in the world. But I think you guys get the idea. Now let's go back to our idea of scale here. So I'm gonna go back to our motion tracker. I'm gonna select any one of our position or any one of our vector constraints. And in this case, the x-axis, all right? For length, we'll say we know it, even though we don't. And that actually, by default, snaps to more of a size that I feel like is going to work for our little world here. So if I go to filter and I turn off work plane grid and let's bring in the wireframe mode, you can see the little person sitting there. And we'll say a person is going to be about that size in this world, right? Because I want to put down like a layer of dirt and then have like a fake sky and maybe put like a little construction truck in there or something. And just building out like a small little playground. All right, so next we should probably build out like the tiny little box that we're going to be putting our world in, okay? So on the origin, I'm going to spawn a plane. And let's go ahead and rotate it, holding shift to snap it to 90 degrees here. And I just want to bring it out so that it's fitting the bounds here of our electrical outlet. You see that doesn't work. That doesn't work for us. You see the focal length is off. So I'm actually gonna redo it. I'm gonna go back and let's try this one more time. Let's keep all those things. That's fine. The 2D tracking is okay. 3D tracking. Let's try changing the focal length to let's try a 35, okay? Or in fact, let's just try 36 by default. And let's try running the solver and see what happens. So in the bottom left, it's doing its thing. It's thinking real hard. And sometimes it's tough working with the iPhone. Sometimes it skips frames. There's like variable shutter speed, so it's tough with motion blur. Random Nation, we're motion tracking a shot right now inside of Cinema 4D, 3D tracking it, actually. And we're trying to just refine our track here so that it better matches our scene so that we can move forward and add our CG elements to our 3D scene and make it look legit and mix with this 2D footage as well. Burke, hey, I'm glad that you could still join, even though you're still at work. It means a lot. Thank you so much. I hope work's going okay for you. I know it's kind of tough. Some people actually really enjoy working from home. I'm definitely in that boat. So going back to work can be tough. But hey, at least we have a job, you know. At least we're getting closer to making ends meet and everything, and I hope that you're doing all right. Yeah, how do you know the mobile camera focal length here? Like, okay, so it made our scene. Let's move forward and see here. Let's see if this is working. Okay, let's take these constraints and let's go ahead and delete the constraints. Or did I even need to do that? Maybe I didn't need to delete the constraints. And let's take the null, and I'm just gonna zero it out. And let's bring in that cube and see, or the plane rather. And it's hard to tell, like, did it get closer? Yeah, this is a tough one. So let's give After Effects Tracker a spin, and let's see if this works. Let's go to frame 100. And let's just throw down. Let's go 3D tracker. And this is why I always like doing multiple trackers, trying different methods, because sometimes other ones work by default when others require a lot more like manual labor to get, you know, a nice little like a track out of it, right? So this is gonna go here. It looks like it's gonna track the entire thing, but it shouldn't take long. It's just gonna take a minute. But I think the thing that's holding us back is the focal length. So if so I have an iPhone XR. Let's just Google iPhone XR focal length, and it says 28 millimeters. Let's see if we can find like if there's a difference between like the camera and the video camera. Because I know the video camera like zooms in. Yeah, it says 28 millimeter equivalent. I mean, 28 seems right to me. Sensor size. Let's try the sensor size in the iPhone. iPhone XR sensor size. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm not really sure. Maybe let's try changing it back to, let's see. We'll go back to the tracker and let's change this to unknown, and we'll run the solver again. And we'll go back to After Effects, and we can see we have all these points. Wonderful. Yes, look, the After Effects tracker worked. Now let's just see if this lines up. Okay, let's do let's make our tracker tracking point smaller. So track point size will go like 25. Okay. And I want to find 4 points that meet the corner. So maybe like this one. 1, 2. I'm holding Shift 3 and 4. I'm gonna right click. We'll set ground plane and origin, and I'm going to right click again and create a null. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm gonna create a solid. And now we have a solid sitting there. That actually looks nice. So let's orient this properly. We want Y pointing up and Z pointing away. All right, so let's see here. Let's go, let's orient this properly. There we go, like that. And let's go ahead and like let's go ahead and scale this. I'm going to unlink it. I'm going to scale it on the Y. And you can see here how like the After Effects tracker, it can come in handy. Because now that actually matches the aspect ratio and the focal length of this box, you know, the perspective of the box. And let's go ahead and scale it on the X as well. So we know that's kind of the area we want to deal with there. And this is After Effects tracker by default. This is great. So this is basically like our floor plane. It's going to be obviously 90 degrees rotated from there. But I'm going to name this floor. And I'll show you guys how I optimize my scene so that I can bring it inside of Cinema 4D and the dimensions are going to stay the same. So with the floor selected, let's go ahead and parent the camera to the floor, okay? Is that right? That should be right. Maybe the scale needs to come back down. Because we know that was like a test, right? So we know it works. Let's parent the camera to the floor. There we go. Okay. So we want to normalize our scene. First, we'll normalize the rotation. So if we go R, we'll just zero everything out besides this X input, which is at 270. The position needs to be, since this is what? This is 720 by 1280. So we need to do that by half. So 720 divided by 2 should be 360. And then 1280 divided by 2 is 640. And then zero out the last little number. So that is going to bring, that's setting our origin point so that it's at 0, 0 when we get to cinema. And then finally, it's, and again, just to touch on that, it's half of your composition resolution. So our comp is 720 by 1280. So we're setting the position to 360 by 640. And then the last thing we want to check is scale. So right now it's set to 100. Let's go ahead and hit Control Y. We'll make a new solid. I'll make it, okay, yeah, I'll make it a 3D layer. We can see that our rotation is off. We want it to stand up tall. So let's go to rotation and adjust that rotation so it just zeroes out, okay? And then let's go ahead and scale our floor down until this black solid kind of matches and fits into our composition. So let's try this. And about like there. Feels pretty good to me. All right. So now our scene is optimized. We can delete this black solid and we can unparent from the floor. And when we bring this in cinema, everything should be lined up pretty nice. All right, so we want to go File, Export, Maxon Cinema 4D Exporter. And I'm just going to find a spot for this real quick. All right, back inside of Cinema, and it actually looks like, yeah, that's cool. It actually looks like the default numbers worked for us because now our plane actually lines up. So we didn't even have to do that in After Effects, but I showed you guys you can do both. That looks really nice. Yeah, that actually lines up. Sweet. Much better. Much, much better. I'm going to hop out of the tracker layout. I'm just going to go back to standard. Yeah. Let's scrub through here. And let's give this plane 0 segments. And it should be sitting, yep, on 0 for the Z. Okay. So it's sitting right on the face of our of our electrical outlet. And real quick, just so I can show you guys what the After Effects scene looks like, I'm going to go ahead and open that up for you. And we'll load in our footage. I'm going to double click, make a new material down here. And let's go ahead and load our JPEG sequence. We'll click it, we'll go to animation and calculate, viewport, animate, preview. All right, and then I'm going to hold this down, make a background, drop it into the background. And notice our scene is optimized and set up in a way that allows us to just hop in and get going inside of Cinema. So either way is going to work for us here, whether it's the After Effects tracker or the C4D tracker. So that was cool. I wasn't expecting to ace both of them, but the C4D tracker took a little bit more work. The After Effects tracker was a bit more of an automated process. Sometimes the After Effects tracker just doesn't work, and the C4D tracker is way better. It really depends on the shot. All right, let's see. All right, so moving on, let's deal with let's make that box, because we want to have a little box to set our world inside of. Yeah, that feels good to me. Okay, so let's take this plane, and once you have it matched up to the dimensions of your box, I'm going to scale it down just a little bit, probably right here. And let's hop out of our camera view. And I'm going to hide these tracked features. And we'll select the back of this plane. I'm going to make it editable. I'll select the back of the plane. Let's reverse our normals. We want to make sure that what we're facing is orange versus blue. So let's see, reverse normals, UR would be the shortcut. And I'm going to just select all of these edges, Control A, Control drag, click and drag. And that will just create a little box for us moving back into the wall. And I'll select that front plane and I'll delete it. And we'll want to close the polygon hole in the back. So that's going to be MD, boom, close polygon hole. And let's make sure our normals are set. And they need to be reversed UR, I think it was. Yes. So now what we have when we hop in here is we actually have a box that kind of has some depth to it, and it actually like sits a little deeper in 3D space. So we can set our scene here. We can build out any sort of room or world we want. And then we just need to light it in a way that feels natural. So I'm going to actually push this plane back a little bit more, right? So we have a bit more depth and parallax in our scene. So we're coming around and like getting the full view of it. So that's going to be really cool. Okay. You guys following along so far? Does this feel okay to you guys? We talked about the After Effects tracker. We talked about the Cinema 4D tracker, and using them both to get a solid track out of this. So now we just need to figure out what goes in this box. And obviously we need to light it. So I think what we'll do next is probably figure out what goes inside of the box. And I'm actually going to ask you guys, what do you guys want to see inside of this thing? Go easy on me, I don't have all day. But I think we can make a small little like diorama inside of this. We could do maybe like an outdoor construction site. Now, like a room with a whole bunch of stuff in it is probably gonna be a bit too much work. But we could maybe do a a beach scene, like a pool or something. We could do a forest, maybe. Little forest scene with some trees inside. It'd actually be really cool to photo scan an environment and put that inside of there. That would be sweet. Oh, a fish tank. Fish tank would be cool. Park, okay. Space, beach, a beach. Megascans. Yeah, I'll probably be using a lot of megascans. Forest. Okay, forest. Maybe we'll do something like that. We'll do a little forest scene or something. What could the background be? Because if it's like a little room, a little box room. Oh, we could also do... So we could also push this back a little bit more. And do, let's see, if I hit KL, that'll be a loop path cut. If I hold shift, we can like snap to the middle. And we'll grab this little bit. We'll control drag it that way. So it turns a corner like that, right? That's interesting. Huh. Maybe it's like a metro. Or like a train station. With a big window. Like right here, like a stained glass window shining down or something. And we have some park benches maybe. Or it's like a clock. Or it's just straight up... Shoot, okay. Just the metro line. We could do something cool where we grab these points, or these faces rather. And we can extrude inner, MW, and we'll drop, let's see, we'll drop this down, MT, so that's going to be like the train tracks. And then maybe on the other side here is the other platform or something. Let's push that back a little bit. And then you could have like a little escalator going up or something right here. So push that back in space, and then there'll be like a little escalator going up that way. Okay, I think that's pretty cool. I think that could be really fun. And there'll be like struts along the wall or something. All right, so now we're at the point where like, let's see, all right. I'm just getting a whole bunch of ideas here. I'm going to take these points. Let's move them. No, let's hop out of the camera. Just move that back a little bit so there's a bit more room to stand there. Sweet. Let's grab these points. I'm just going to try and make more of like a platform in here. Yeah, this is going to be cool. Awesome. All right, I'm glad this is giving you guys some good ideas. I'm excited about this. Alex says turn on backface culling. What is that? I've heard about it, but I don't know what it is. Is it a bit easier, an easier way for you guys to view what's going on? Maybe some ambient occlusion would help. Let's see, where is my ambient occlusion settings? Filter, effects. Here we go. Radius 20. Let's just boost it up. Looks kind of janky. Ah, okay, here we go. Oh, snap. That's a good one. NC? Backface. NP. That's good. Okay, that's good. Very nice. Thank you for that tip. That was a good one. Very good one. Okay, so we're kind of set up to start detailing out this thing. And then we can talk about lighting later. So I'm going to need to gather some assets and probably some reference footage. So let's just look up, let's Google Metro station. Or Japanese train station. Something like this. That's cool. It has the ads on the wall. Like we can do so much detail on this, you know. It has the pillars, these standing pillars that we can put in here. So let's get our scale right. Yeah, that feels good to me. You know, there's a person there. Let's go ahead and move this person down to this ground plane. So we want the person to fit right on the ground there. So let's go ahead and just eyeball this in. I'm hitting S to snap my viewport to the object selected. Okay, that's great. Now, is there a way I want to have my origin point be right on the ground here? So how would I do that? Let's think about this for a second. There we go. I think if I just move it, no, actually that doesn't work. Screw it. We'll just hold control and we'll spawn things on this person. That's what we'll do. All right. What does the ceiling look like? Okay, it's a very low ceiling, but I think ours will be a high ceiling. So we need an actual metro line. We need this floor pattern, this multiple floor pattern. We need the tracks, which I know Megascans has the tracks. So I'm just gonna go to bridge and start favoriting some items here that I know I'm gonna need. Okay, so this is Quixel Bridge. If you guys don't know about it, it's basically the best thing ever. And it allows us to transfer all of the any Megascans library asset we want. We're gonna go ahead and transfer that into any program of our choice. So you see right here, train tracks. These are some like old train tracks, but I think this would actually work. These railway tracks right here. Yeah, these are definitely older, but I think that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and favorite this. Let's see what they have for concrete barriers. Maybe something like this could be a useful item. I know we want, let's see, we go home, we'll go to surfaces, and let's just type in, I know they have that like crosswalk texture. What is it called? It's a floor some type. Let's see. It's that crosswalk, that yellow crosswalk kind of texture. I know that Polygon has one, but I think Megascans does too. Crosswalk? What would that be called? Yellow crosswalk surface. It's like the bumpy surface. Let's check Polygon. I know they have it. Let's do man-made. Or is it under, does it have a floor? Let's see, crosswalk. Dang, I know he has it. Yeah, the thing for blind people, yeah. Oh, it's not in surfaces? I got you. Let's just search everything. Tactile paving. Ah, here it is. Yes, it's a decal. Yeah. All right. Nice find. We'll grab this one too. We'll get both. Heck, we'll do all three. Good find. Thank you guys. Thank you. Surya, appreciate you. Okay. Let's go back to our reference. Let's go back to our reference and see what we need. Okay. Did I close it? Oh, I may have closed it. Oh yeah, this is good. So we have these like top lights, and we have these signs and stuff, and there's a lot of like detail on the ground. So there's like this beige tile that we can use. So let's find surfaces, ground. Maybe it's under tile, ceramic. Ooh, this is good. Something like this, we can scale this up. That's nice. I like that. This is good. Anti-slip. We'll grab that. So yeah, you're just gonna want to go through here and like pick your materials and everything, and this is gonna probably be the longest portion of the process, is piecing everything together. Let's see what the walls look like. So there's a lot of detail in this. There's all these ads, so we can go to town on the banners and stuff. Oh, here's a look. Here's a nice one. Yeah, we have all these signs and everything. And these pillars. So maybe this needs to be like a let me save this actually. And I'm just saving iterations, so I can always go back if I need to. I'll hop out of camera view, and I just want to make sure, like, let's get to, maybe there's 2 areas for where the actual train is going through. So we want to fit 2 trains in here. I'll go back to the plane, and let's just move everything. Oh man, this backface culling is so nice. Let's move everything, all these points, back a little bit more, so that way it's creating, like, we have 2 sections now where the train is going to be passing. And I'm going to make sure that we don't see the edges. All right, the train just keeps going. So let's do let's move these points back. Like that, okay? A little bit further. And very nice. Man, yeah, you can really go to town on this. Yep, Chips, we're doing a secret diorama of a metro station. Exactly. Okay. So let's just let's block this in a little bit more. We can throw some pillars down, and I'm probably gonna make this little waiting area a little larger. I'll give it a bit more room. So maybe we just keep adding depth to it. The more depth to this little secret diorama, the better. So let's grab these points and push them back. Awesome. Sweet. Okay. Let's see what else we need. So the only reason I'm like hesitant to do these pillars and these arches is just because like maybe they just go to the ceiling, I guess. I think that could be fine, but it might feel a little weird. But let's see. So I'll make a cylinder. And I'll actually spawn the cylinder on the figure. So if you have the figure selected, I'll hold control and make a cylinder, and now that cylinder is spawned inside of that person, or in the place of the object you had selected. So let's go ahead and scale this up. And so we have these two pillars. I don't know how I feel about these. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll get rid of those cylinders. I think this is going to be cool. You know, just this. Michael, that's awesome. I'm glad you pieced that together, man. Okay. So let's see about texturing this thing out. Okay. We want to have a metro going through here, a Japanese like little metro, some JR line or something. This one right here. So let's do a search. Let's see. Okay, let's try Turbo Squid. And we'll search for free. We'll see what we can find here. Okay, not much. This doesn't do us much here. I mean, I'm down to pay $5. I can pay $5 for something. Let me try CG Trader. You guys told me about this website. It's actually really nice. Hey, Arnie. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. It really helps out a lot. You know, these tutorials, they take a lot to get started. There's a lot of pre-work I got to put in, and even after the fact, I still have to keep working on it to put out that final result. So the super chats really, really help, and I really appreciate your support. So Arnie, thank you a ton. Heck yeah. Independence Day stream. Okay, let's see what we can find on CG Trader. Do they have any like metro trains? Metro train. See, I could just buy this scene for $100 and pop it in. Do they have anything for free? This isn't bad here. Oh, no, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Let's see what they got for $10. All right. $4 for this train here. That's not bad. Ooh, $8. This is it. this is about it right here. FBX. Yes. Okay. I'm going to get this. This is a good one. Give me 1 second, guys, while I go ahead and log in and get this train asset going. If you guys can think of any other things I'll need for this little metro, let me know in the chat while I download this. All right, almost done here, guys. Gathering assets. This is the longest part of the process. Oh, man. Come on. Sorry to leave you hanging, guys. Just bear with me here. Okay. I think we're in business. We got the FBX ready to go. on earth? There it is. Sweet. Very cool. Alright, so the axis is all off. It also has some keyframes that I want to delete. Let's go ahead and zero out all this stuff here. And I'll use the axis center tool to center the axis up with the model. Perfect. And then I'm actually going to bring it all the way down to the Y, so it's sitting right at the bottom. That way I can, you know, get this train to sit on the ground, okay? Let's take the train, bring it into our scene, okay. Boom, it's tiny. We'll scale this thing up. And how does this work? Okay, so trains, I guess, yeah, they're like, the doors are right on the edge. So let's hop in here. So that the door comes right up to the edge of this thing. So it looks, I can't tell, this is kind of janky. I'm gonna go ahead and delete all these train materials. And we'll get that right there on the edge. I'm just lining the train up. There we go. Then we have a second train. Going the other direction, so I'll copy that and move that over here. And we'll rotate that around. And bring up these polygons so that like, so it's just enough to like fit these two trains, right? I think you guys get the idea. You know, we're just gonna be building this thing out for the next hour or so. Let's bring these points in and bring these points up. Awesome. And let's start texturing this thing. Let's start throwing down some textures. All right. So this is definitely one where like the more time you spend on this, the better it's going to be. And the more detail you add, the better. So I think what we'll do is we'll actually make a shadow catcher material in Octane and apply it to all these front faces. So like here and here. And then let's load in our JPEG sequence. And we'll go to our Octane settings and just make sure that alpha channel is checked. Keep environment is unchecked. We'll hop back into the camera. All right. So when we render this, we don't want to see any of this, any of these top faces or any of these side faces. We just want to see what's on the inside. So we might have to do that in like render passes and stuff. And maybe what I'll do for this tutorial is just kind of give you guys I may not go super deep into the texturing and everything and the placement of assets, but we'll at least render something out. We'll light it so it looks nice. So I'm going to drop in an HDRI image just so it, the lighting is a bit more uniform between our live action plate and the CG elements here. And let's go ahead and delete that shadow catcher. We don't need that for a second. I'm going to make a new Octane sky, and I'm going to load in a custom HDRI image that I took. All right, so this is actually taken basically right where the camera is. I'm going to scale up this sphere, and let's hide the plane for a second, and we'll hide the trains. Let's go ahead and organize this. So we'll just group that, Alt-G, and we'll call this Geo for geometry, and then I like to, let's do the figure and the background, the Octane sky and this sphere. I'll Alt-G that, and I'll call that scene. And the null, that's our camera. So in the scene, let's make a new Octane glossy material, drag and drop it onto the sphere here. And let's go ahead and let's go to index, drop it down to 1. And let's go ahead and just give this sphere a bit more segments. All right, and let's just make sure that this thing is oriented properly. So let's switch over to DL, and I'm going to select the Octane sky tag, go into node view. Let's give it a color corrector, color correction node, okay. And then I'm going to give it a transform node. That way we can move this HDRI around to about there, because that's where we filmed this thing from. Back into path tracing. And I think, I might just leave it by default. I think it looks fine by default. Let's hide the sphere, and let's bring our geometry back in. And let's try and set up that flat wall plane as a frontal projection, or with frontal projection that Alex is talking about. I think that's probably the best way to do this. So I'm wondering if we can take certain parts of this plane here, like these bits, and even all these top faces too. So everything up here, everything facing the camera, basically. Everything back there. And these bits on the side. Maybe we'll start with these, and we'll see if we can get projection working. So let's try. Let's see. Let's drag and drop our footage onto just those polygons. And it's giving me, it's saying I can't do it. Let me set selection. And we'll try it this way. Okay, and then now what we need to do is go to projection. I believe camera mapping is the way to do this. Front, we'll set that to front, and we'll select our camera. We'll drop our camera right in there. And it never works exactly as I need it to. So standard, it's looking for an aspect ratio 16:9. So it's like let's see, 16:9. So 9:16 because we're vertical. Man, that's not working. Oh, we can calculate it. But you see how it's all broken up and it looks... It needs to probably be in the luminance channel. So let's copy this. Paste. Oh, nope. Paste it in the luminance. That way it's maintaining its full brightness. Maybe we need to convert this to an octane material. Shoot, having trouble here. I don't know why it's not displaying properly. Man, it's all troubleshooting, guys. VFX, lots of troubleshooting, lots of Googling things you don't know. Yeah, I feel like Octane does have a camera projection node. I'm just not familiar with it too much. I don't use it too much. Let's see. Let's load our sequence again. see about getting some lights in here. So going back to the reference, we can see that there's these strip lights all across the top, all across the ceiling here. So maybe we can do something similar by maybe up on the ceiling here, we can add some octane area lights. Let's go ahead and like move this down, rotate 90. And we'll just scale this out. So one will just be on one side of the track. It'll go up to the ceiling, and then the other will just be on the other side of the track. And we'll take both of those and we'll just we'll bring the power down to like 25 or something. And let's change the tint. Like they're kind of, I feel like they're like those that greenish tint, you know, that tungsten, or not tungsten, but I forget the term. The fluorescent bulbs, right? Those fluorescent bulbs, they're just a little green, which I think is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool look. So maybe we can take the texture and give it a C4D RGB spectrum, and we'll just make it a little bit on the green side. So you get that, just that nice little tint. Okay. So we can also drop in our bridge assets that we downloaded, like the floor and the tiling and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and export these. We'll go to our favorites, and we want to export all this stuff for Cinema 4D. So we want to make sure that stuff is all properly set up. Okay, we want to download all this. You can select all those at once, and we can download all 6 assets. While that downloads, let's try and work on this projection bit. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Who said it? David. Yeah, let's try that, David. I'm going to select the edges of this plane here. Yep. UL for a loop selection. And let's just go ahead and go to our scale tool. I'm going to hold control and drag, and that's going to make new polygons right there for us. And then we'll scale it along this side. We'll scale it up. So it's just covering our entire scene like this. We'll hop back into camera to make sure we're covering everything. And we're getting in there. Now this is also a really cool tip too, that you guys can use your actual tracked data from your tracked camera and make a full CG scene that way. So like we can build this whole thing out, right? Obviously you can tell here in the render that this is entirely CG now. And it can feel interesting because it was shot with a real camera. But you trick the audience and you actually build out a full CG environment using that actual tracked camera data. It can give it a really cool look and feel. So let's see. Let's take these 4 polygons. Let's turn off these lights for a second. Let's grab all this. And we'll make this, let's see. Maybe this is the shadow catcher. where we can set that selection. There we go. That is actually working for us. If you see in the render here, we're getting exactly what we want and only what we want. So David, thank you. That was actually the best way to go about that. And we're peering inside of this. Let's turn those lights back on. They really helped. That's awesome. All right. Let's bring these lights up just a little bit more. Sweet. So how did I get the backplate to show up in the render? Basically, I went to my Octane settings and I set that to alpha channel and I unchecked keep environment. So that's going to actually allow the backplate to show through your footage down here. And I'm in path tracing. In direct lighting, you know, you're going to have to go back to Octane and change those settings again if you want that in direct lighting as well. But direct lighting actually keeps that green tint. But yeah, path tracing is probably what we want for this situation because we've got a lot of bounce light bouncing all around in here. I think these trains need to be scaled up. So I'm going to take both of those trains. I'm going to scale these things up. And just make sure it's looking nice from our side view. I'm going to turn off these lights so it's a little easier to see. And we'll take these two trains. And it's a little hard to see, so I'm going to hide the background. That feels right. Sweet. All right, so let's add that tiling. Back to bridge. We can see all of our stuff is downloaded for the most part. No, I guess it's still downloading. Did it stop here? Weird. Well, we have our dirty swimming pool texture, so let's start with that. Export settings, we want to make sure we're going to Cinema 4D, not Unreal Engine. And we'll export 4K is fine. And let's go ahead. This is done as well. And we'll just transfer all these that are finished. So we're probably not even going to need the train tracks because we don't even see them. Are you guys doing okay? Is the lag too bad for you guys? I think I just want to download one more thing here. This yellow tiling. And we'll export. So, man, I realized like you could spend a week on this, adding vending machines and signs and lights and everything, and really building it out to be a full and complete scene. And there's just no way that I'm going to be able to max this thing out on the stream here. Which is why I wish I had more time, to set this kind of stuff up. So it'd be nice to actually like have the completed version for you guys and then just kind of break it down live. Okay. So we have our stuff imported in here. Let's go ahead and start applying it. So let's start with the floor tile. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to render region here just so we can actually see what's going on a little bit better. And let's go ahead and drop that swimming pool texture onto the floor. All right, so the mapping is way off, or the wrapping rather is way off. So let's go into the node editor and fix that up. The easiest way to do that, or you know what, honestly, it's probably gonna be easiest to do it up here. Let's select the projection UV mapping and we'll set that to, let's try flat. Cool. So that actually worked for us. And then we want to scale it way up. So let's go tiles 0.2. Refresh our scene. And Scorn, thank you, sir, for the super chat. Much appreciated. I'm glad you enjoy them, and I'm glad that you can actually, learn a thing or two from these. I know they're not as like direct and full of information as a produced tutorial would be, but I still think it's fun to do this. Okay. So we have our tiles, but the tile ends right there. We want it to end. We want to scoot it back a little bit. So let's take the offset V, I believe. Let's set it to 1 and see what happens. And it's just annoying we have to re-render this every time. We'll try setting it to 2.5 maybe. I can't tell if that's doing anything. Yeah, I cannot tell. Here we go. We can actually see it in our viewport. And yes, that makes more sense. I'm just lining it up so the tiles make sense. Let's try 0.1, 0.16, 0.16. Perfect. I know, I need more GPUs, guys. I'm still on a 1070. It's crazy. It's crazy. But hopefully there'll be something cool for all of us in the works here. So we'll see about that. And I'm glad you guys prefer the live streams over the full tutorial. But I got a couple of those in the works for you guys as well. Let's add this yellow bit. So I'll select those 3 and let's go ahead and drag and drop this yellow texture. Let's make sure our selection is right. So we just want these 3 little strips. And we'll go to this little bit and we'll hit set selection. All right. And we're not seeing anything. And I don't know why yet. It has opacity with it. Okay, so if I got rid of this opacity, then it's coming in. Okay, now let's go back and we'll change this to flat. And now we're actually seeing the material. Awesome. All right, so let's adjust this so it actually lines up. We want to make it large enough so that one of these fits inside. So it's kind of trial and error here. There we go. That works. And it feels like it's stretched. It needs to be stretched on. There we go. And then let's give it, let's try 0.8 and 1.6. Something like that. That works for the most part. Let's get some texture on the actual wall here on this, maybe some sort of tile or reflective tile as well. Oh, it's like a brick material. Let's try that. Let's try a brick material. So in bridge, I'm going to go to surfaces. Let's find tile, stone, sidewalk, ceramic, and we'll see if we can find like a brick, ceramic brick texture. Tokyo wall tiles. That's not bad. Maybe something like this. Let's give this one a shot. Let's try downloading this guy. Yeah, I'd be putting vending machines in here, signs on the wall, like posters and stuff. Let's try adding like a cube. And I'm just gonna like flatten it out, scale it up, and we can put advertisements on this. But maybe next time I'm in the subway, I'll just photo scan it so I can just drop it in, and it'll be a lot easier. So we can put ads on the walls here. Let's just try Googling like Japanese Boss Coffee billboard. And we can like take one of these or something and rework it. Like this right here, you know, we can take this, save this image out. And we can drop that. Let's see if I make a new octane glossy material. We can drop that on these cubes. And then we can load in the diffuse channel. We can load up that image we just saved. You guys can see why this would take a really long time to get the feeling right, you know, because there's just a lot of details you'd want to add to build out this whole scene. You know, and you can give each one of these like a little light panel above it shining down. Let's go back to bridge and see what's good with our tile texture. So we'll bring this into Cinema. Yeah, definitely a wet floor would be. Oh, a wet floor sign. Yes, that'd be very nice. Maybe there's some assets in bridge. Caution. 3D assets, construction. Street. So you could definitely add a whole bunch of this stuff. I think like some of these caution cones or something would be sweet. You know, I have this one. I could bring this one in. And now let's get let's adjust our actual wall texture. Cool. Drag and drop. And the material wrapping is insane. So let's go back here. Let's set it to cubic. And we'll scale it up a little bit. So we'll try tiling 0.5. And I want to brighten up this diffuse pass just a little bit. So I'll take the brightness. We'll go to 2, maybe 3. It definitely feels gross. It definitely feels like a gross, like Metro. And not in a good way. It's going to take a lot of work to actually get this to look right. Denny, tips for unwrapping UVs. Man, to be honest with you, I do not have many tips on unwrapping UVs. It is not my specialty, and it is certainly an area I need to put more time and effort into. Though I do know that in Cinema 4D R22, there's like a whole new unwrapping feature and an unwrapping kind of layout. So they make it a lot easier in C4D R22. That's all I know, though. That's about all I know. 3D Model Haven has one. Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. 3D Model Haven.com. Here we go. Wet floor. This is great. We get the FBX. Oh, they have high poly versions now too. Awesome. Might as well. Yeah, 3D Model Haven is such a great site. It's part of the Texture Haven and HDRI Haven kind of like conglomerate, and it's very, very useful. Very high quality stuff. Some of the highest quality stuff. Let's see. Where do we want to put this? All right, and we'll download the textures. All right. Back into cinema. I'll just make a new. Let's actually. Yeah, let's merge it with the model we just downloaded, the wet floor sign. We'll get that FBX loaded in, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and like solo this thing. So I'm gonna select the sign, and we'll solo it, and we'll hop in. I'll make a new glossy material, drag and drop, and let's go ahead and drop in all of our assets. So actually, I'll make a new RGB, or no, an image texture. That's what I want. Okay, and I want to load these textures that we just downloaded. All right, so that's with the diffuse. And it's not wrapping properly. Why is that? Strange. So weird. Huh. Wow. Geez, maybe it needs to be flipped or something. Let's try adding a transform node and flipping it rotation 180 on one of these axes. What is going on? Man, I do not know. This is what it's supposed to look like. Maybe I imported it weird. Yeah, the 8-bit one's not working either. That's strange. Huh. Yeah, the low poly model, maybe? Alright, geometry, yeah, that's fine. Animation, no. Materials. Should be good. Oh, the low poly one works. That's weird. That's really weird. Anyway, that should be fine for us. Now we have a nice little wet floor sign that we can add in. All right, I'll get out of solo view. And we want to transform this sign to this figure. That way it's on the ground. And same for the construction cone. We can take this thing and let's move the gizmo to the bottom, and then we'll transform it once again. We'll transform it to the wet floor sign. That's totally fine. We can scale it up. And we'll just put a couple in here. Awesome. Sweet. And the train itself, like, I don't think we're going to have time to texture this thing, but maybe what we can do in the meantime is just give it some, like, emissive materials in the window so we can grab in our train. If we're lucky enough, we'll actually have the windows as its own geometry. That way we can easily just drag and drop. So let's do... Yeah, it looks like this is all one piece. So we'll have to go in and grab these window bits. And I'm wondering if any one of these set selection tags are just the windows, and I'm hoping that's the case. Yeah, there we go. So that's windows. I'll make a diffuse material, drop it on there, and we'll give it an emission, black body emission. Let's unsolo, hop back in, render our scene, and see what it looks like. It's probably going to be really intense. But I guess that's not the case. Let's go to our mission settings and check surface brightness. That will do the trick. Cool. And just for the heck of it, let's give the train a chrome material or a scratched metal or something. So we actually have that chrome here. And we'll throw it down on the train. It looks like that's not doing anything. All right, let's see. Let's find, it looks like applying the chrome material to just the train isn't working because I think I need to delete all these question marks. because it's still, I think it's still trying to like find the original textures, which I deleted because they were. Whoa, that is intense. What is happening there? Okay, by making it chrome, by making the whole thing chrome, it like blows out everything. That's weird. Oh, weird. Okay, it's working for everything, but I see. I see. Ah. All right, so obviously there is a ton more work to do on texturing this and building out this metro station. Um, but I think I'm going to render this. I'm going to render a little bit of frame so we can see what it looks like in After Effects, and we can composite in After Effects. So let's let me just tweak this chrome real quick. I'm going to give it some roughness. Set it to like 0.2. And I don't know why the rest of the, oh, it's because of these question marks again. So bear with me while I get rid of all this stuff. There we go. Okay, so now it should actually be working on both trains. Awesome. And I'm just going to animate these things real quick. So we'll start with one train speeding by. So as soon as we open it, this is going to be speeding by. Starting from like here. We'll make a keyframe, we'll move forward, and we'll move this train all the way across the train tracks. To like there, where it's gone out of view. We'll make a new keyframe. I'm gonna hold Shift F3, Shift F3, and that will bring up our timeline here. And I'm gonna select both of those points and just set them to linear. And another trick that I actually learned from Andrei Librov. Andrei Librov, I think that's his name. He has a great YouTube channel, but he actually just recently dropped a C4D like tips and tricks video, and one of them is really cool where if you hit play and you're not getting your full frame rate, which it looks like here we definitely are. We're getting 33, 40 frames a second. What you can do is hold down this film strip and uncheck all frames, and it's going to play out your animation or play out your sequence in real time. It may still be laggy and chunky, but it will essentially ensure that you'll be able to watch through your sequence in as real of like feedback as possible. So we can have that train move a lot faster. Awesome. And then this first train will just kind of like move into the station. And maybe what we'll do is we'll actually scoot this back. So the train passes, and then this other train starts pulling up. So we'll do like a keyframe here, and we'll move forward and have the train stop like right here at the end. We'll make another keyframe. This first keyframe we'll set to a linear keyframe, and the second one we're going to actually animate and tweak a little bit in the animation window. So we want the x-axis, so if we open this up and we go to position, x-axis, you can see how it's just kind of like a linear line. We want it to come to a really slow stop. So I can select both of these keyframes here, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's just the X. I'll select both of those, and we'll give them like a Bezier curve. And this one wants to basically start as a linear keyframe, so I'm going to get that just right in there. And this one wants to slow down to a stop. So something like this, right? So it curves up and it slowly comes to that stop, right? So let's see what that looks like. So it rushes in and then comes to that nice slow stop. But I think it comes in a little fast. Something like that. That's cool. And let's hop into our camera to make sure we're only seeing what we want to see here. Let's bring this back over so we can see our viewport a little bit better, and let's play it. So you see how that train is hiding right there? We want to bring this train back a little bit when it starts out. So we'll push this back a little bit more. Make a keyframe there. And really condense these keyframes so that thing flies by. And we get in here, and then this train comes in. And then you'll animate the scene further. But let's get rid of this figure real quick. You can populate this with a whole bunch of people and go to town with it. But again, just for the sake of time, we don't have much of it. Because it's the 4th of July, baby. I got barbecues to go to. Okay. So I'm actually going to render this out with motion blur. And to do that, at least as far as Octane goes, you'll want to go to your camera and make sure it has an Octane tag on it. You can right click it, go to C4D Octane tags, and give it an Octane camera tag. And under motion blur, I'm going to just set this to like 1/60, okay? And we'll make sure our shutter alignment is centered, and we will enable it. And it looks like under geometry, we'll give the train an octane object tag, and that just kind of like allows the camera to talk with these objects specifically. And it's going to say, hey, we see that you're moving real fast. We're going to give you some motion blur. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. I'll render my scene. And you guys can see here that this train indeed has motion blur, but I need to give those lights to the train. So I'm going to switch out. I think I'm going to switch out this train real quick. Let's delete that train. And let's make sure this train looks good with all the lights and everything. Why doesn't it have lights? What happened to the materials? Oh man, that's frustrating. I think this train asset is all over the place. I only need 2 of those tags. Let me just check these material selections real quick, because something is up. All right, so it looks like for this cab specifically, this one is actually getting the materials, but we want this to be true for all of the cabs. I think that might just have to be something we skip for now, because that's going to be just a long, tedious process of getting all that stuff lined up and everything. But I do want this train, the entire train, to be chrome, and for some reason it's not doing that. I do not know why. That's just gonna be a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and render this thing, guys. And I'll undo the deletion of that last train. There we go. All right. Go back to frame number 1, hop into that camera, and let's set up our render settings here. So let's think about this. Octane, all frames, yes please. And for our sake, a PNG is fine with alpha. All right, and we should be good. Let's see. Let's do, for the sake of seeing something on the stream here, let's just go 200 samples, and we'll select the camera tag. We'll go to camera imager. We'll drop down spectral AI denoiser and enable it. And let's make sure. Ooh, here's one last idea. So this door is being opened, right? Let's see if we can open something along with that real door. So I'm going to go to the frame where the door is closed here, right? The actual door. And let's go to geometry. Okay, let's spawn a cube. Right, so we'll actually cover it with something here. And I'm gonna take the HDRI image and make it a little brighter. I feel like it needs to be a little bit brighter. So we'll go back to scene, we'll go to node view, we'll grab that color correction, and we'll just take it up to like, we'll take it up to like 2 or something. Okay, and then let's take the gizmo. I'm gonna hit L. Oh, it doesn't work if it's not editable, so we'll hit C, we'll make it editable. I'm gonna hit L, move the gizmo over so it swivels from that side. And let's see if we can't make a keyframe here. And when the door opens, like this, we actually open up and reveal all of this from the inside. And we'll take the cube, we'll give it an Octane camera tag. Visibility, it's not camera visible, but it is shadow visible. So you can see how that closed door kind of darkens up our scene. It's being lit by those lights from above. Maybe we can take those lights down. So these Octane lights, we'll take down to like 12.5. And when the door opens, it's letting in all of this daylight from the actual HDRI image. And let me just see if I can, once the door opens, we want it to kind of fade out. Oh, it didn't save. Okay. I didn't make the keyframe. So it opens up. Make the keyframe. And then we can just kind of open it up all the way and scoot it over. Make that keyframe. So it's actually being opened. That still looks dim. If I turn off these lights... Oh, why is it dark? Why is it dark? It shouldn't be dark. Let me double check my HDRI settings. Again, guys, this is all just a whole bunch of problem solving. Okay, so you're asking how to make custom buttons, how to set up custom buttons. So you can hit Shift C and look up anything you want, like this Axis Center tool, and you can drag it and drop it, and it'll make a new button right there, just like that. You can also go to the window, customization, customize commands, and you can do the same thing here. You can look up like a set selection, and you can drag it, drop it in there. But since I already have one, if you hit this checkbox, edit palettes, you can like come up in here and double click it. I think we'll erase it. Yep. And then you can even add these icon separators or group separators to add, you know, like these little spaces between everything. But make sure you go to window and you save your layout. If you don't save your layout, Cinema 4D won't open up with those new buttons. So just make sure you do that. Now, why on earth is it black now? Huh. So the lights are giving us something, but I don't know why it's just completely dark like this. I did set my octane sky brightness to 0 by mistake. Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Sweet. Yeah, so it opens it up and reveals our scene in here. Ah, that's great. And let's get those lights back in. Awesome. And then I'm just going to drop the tile texture on the other side. Something like that, and then we'll do, we'll set that selection. All right, so it's on there. I also feel like doing a clay render of this would be cool too. So we just get rid of all that, and it's just like the actual clay render. But nah, we'll bring everything back. All right. So let's go and render this thing. We can start from frame 100. And let's give it a render. So I think the biggest issue, or not issue, but the biggest hurdle in After Effects is to combine the edges, to blend the edges properly. So one trick we could do is actually bevel the edges of this plane here. That way it catches some of the light and it bleeds off into the actual metal texture. Another way would be to create like a little cutout in the metal texture in 3D and then kind of inset our room back inside of that and expand it out so there isn't a seamless blend from the metal of this electrical socket to the tiles, because I don't think you can really do that. It's gonna have to be a hard line at some point. And for the sake of getting the most frames out of this, I'm going to lower the render resolution. So we'll do 960 by 540 instead. And we'll take the samples to just like 150. And we'll render that. And we do have the AI denoising turned on with the camera. All right, so as soon as we get a frame out of this, I'll load it back into After Effects. But basically what we'll have to do here is we're gonna have to rotoscope this little door, this panel here. So that we reveal our render underneath. And it makes it pretty easy because the thing's already tracked. So let me show you guys how to set up a track mat. Let's take that floor and let's hit Control-Shift-Y to go into our solid settings. we'll make it black. And I'm just going to scale it up so it covers the entire little like door panel that we're going to be rotoing, right? So let's see if the pen tool lines up with what we're doing here. And it looks like it does. Okay, great. Let me set the floor opacity to 0. And since the floor is actually tracked onto our footage, we don't have to animate a mask. That's the idea of a track mat. It saves you a lot of time. So let's go to the first frame, like right about here, I think. And let's just make let's uncheck rotor Bezier and go through and just make a couple points. We'll go 1, and let's try a point here. And I'm holding Alt to just adjust one of those little arms. And I'll wrap it up like that. Okay, so now when we turn this on, I think at this point we can load in our footage. So I'll double click in the project window. Let's load in our footage import. You want to make sure interpret footage main. You want to make sure that your frame rate is the same as the frame rate on your footage. Okay, so that's one to remember. And you want to make sure it's set to straight unmatted. That way you don't get any weird haloing around your CG object. So I'm going to drop this in above our footage. We'll bring it to frame 100 because that's where we started our render from. And since it's tiny like this, we need to hit Shift F, and that will fit it to the composition. It's very low poly, right? Or low samples right now. But that's about all we can afford in terms of time for this stream. So let me just set this up real quick. If we right click the image sequence we just brought in and we go to time, enable time remapping, and scale that all the way out, we can turn off time remapping. And now every time we right click this and reload our footage, it's automatically going to update down here. We don't have to keep dragging it out every time. So let's scrub and make sure that everything lines up. It looks like it's not lining up with our camera. So I think that's going to be, let's see. We started from frame 100. We're on frame 100. So I think we'll just have to adjust this when we have a bit more frames. It's going to take a minute to figure out what the issue is there. But let's focus on one thing at a time here. The track mat, okay? We want to have this door rotoed on top of our footage here. So let's duplicate our footage, bring it above our render, okay? And now we have this layer here. This is our roto layer. And we want our footage to reference that. So with this solid above our footage, we can set our footage to alpha matte. And now it's just going to be this little door here, okay? You can see our render is peeking through down here. So we'll probably have to adjust our, back in Cinema 4D, we'll have to adjust this box here so that it kind of goes in and follows the contours of this little panel. Same for back here. Actually, back here is not going to matter too much because we can take floor mat and just move it back here. So now let's keyframe this mask on the solid here so that it moves along with the door. So I'm just going to go forward, shift page down goes forward 10 frames. So I'm going to keep going forward. I'll set this to none. It's easier to see that way. And I'm going to just keep moving forward here every 10 frames, making sure that this stays. Shift page down. And the good thing about going every 10 frames is that if you can get it looking nice every 10 frames, there's going to be times where all those frames in between the 10 frames, they just work out and they look right. And then you don't have to do it frame by frame because, you know, you're getting it, you're starting general and then you're working it in and getting more specific. So I'll get the in between frames next. So it'll be every 5 frames, but right now I'm going every 10 frames to get it to look right. And if it's hard to see this mask, you can change the color down here. You can just go black. All right, that might also be hard to see. I'll just set it to like a bright yellow. And that's a lot easier. So I'm gonna keep moving. And that should do it. That should do it right there. We'll probably need to get in here and roto this as well. So it's going to require a bit of roto work to get this looking right. So let's go back every 5 frames. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's page up. And I'm just going to go through here and make sure all this stuff kind of aligns itself. And now I'm going to go every 10 frames, which gets us in between these keyframes down here. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. We keep going back, and you can see how like it's basically lined up. The hard work has been done. And we go through and make sure things are looking good. And then you can go every like 3 frames. So you go in between those to make sure it's looking good. So we'll go to those in-betweens and we'll find any like this moment here where it's way off. We'll adjust it. For the most part, you know, here again, there's times where you have to do it frame by frame. Like in this case, when there's a lot of movement, we'll have to do it frame by frame. But that looks good. So let's bring the opacity back up to, that looks like, let's reload our render. And we'll set the mask to add. We'll set it back to add. So it's going to be revealing our train station. Now let me figure out why this frame rate is off. So inside of Cinema, that's the issue, frame rate. It's set to 24. So I think we need to set that to 30. Hit Control D to check your project settings, FPS 30. Let's try re-rendering that. And now it should line up with us. Now there's still a lot of work to be done, but I think you guys get the idea. I think you might be able to take this idea and make something really cool of your own. Yeah, you get a bunch of samples in here. You actually build this out so it looks like a legit structure and it's actually real. And then you comp it in, looking real nice. You guys can get some really, really cool effects. But yeah, I would love to get to the point where I can do this to its completion. It's just going to take way too long, as you guys can see. You know, we're already looking at man, what are we? 3 hours in, So this can go for a week, to be honest. But I hope these tools and these tips and these ideas can help you guys, kick started on your own kind of fresh, interesting ideas. And this is all, again, based off of somebody who actually did this in real life. Again, we got to shout out, let's see, secret room behind outlet. So it's a Japanese artist. Let's go ahead and read up. This is how I got the idea. His name is Mozu, 21 years old, and he does stuff like this. And you can see all the detail that can go into this, Actually building out a room with all the papers and the air conditioning. Like, this is so well done. That is awesome. And he does a lot of these. Oh, wow. It's just all of this, all the same posts. He does a whole lot of that stuff. So definitely check out Mozu, because that's how I got the inspiration for this effect. Let's reload our image and see if it's working. It still looks like we need to line some stuff up, but it's all good. Again, that goes back into the week of work that it's going to take to really make this thing shine. Okay. So I appreciate you guys joining me. And as you guys know, as some of you know, I do a weekly challenge, and I hold it for you guys and anybody a part of the Create with Clint Discord server. So if you guys hadn't joined one, definitely consider doing so, because there's going to start to be some really interesting prizes. I'm trying to line up prizes for you guys every week on this. In the past, we've done Grayscale Gorilla's Everyday Material Collection, and that's just straight up like $250 of some of the greatest textures handmade by those guys. Absolutely incredible, very useful. We also did a giveaway for a car shader setup by Spastic Mouse, and he spent the last year building that out. So I want to keep the prizes coming. So definitely start joining these contests, these weekly creative challenges, so that you guys can start winning some cool stuff. And also, honestly, like, I think at the end of the day, it's so that we can learn and grow and get better at the craft, we're trying to get better at. So let's go ahead and announce the winners of last week's challenge first, okay? The challenge was snow. That was the prompt. That's all you guys had to go off of. And we got some pretty sweet results. So let me go ahead and pull those up for you guys and announce these winners. There's always 5. There's 5 winners. So let's see. All right. So first winner of this week's weekly challenge, with the prompt being snow. Let's go ahead and open up the Swag Ninja. This guy rendered this really, really cool scene. Very post-apocalyptic, very creepy. Reminds me of The Walking Dead. You got the guard towers up here, spotlights coming down. It's all snowy. You got all the snow coming down. And I hadn't played The Last of Us 2 yet, but I could totally imagine this scene being in that game. Nice work on the volumetric spotlights. Good stuff. And you have a nice warm glow in this camp. So it looks like there's a lot of, there's people living there. There's a lot of liveliness maybe on the other side of this thing. And you're just wondering, this guy's been out traveling for who knows how long and finally got to a spot. Is it a good spot? Is it a bad spot? I don't know. But it's piqued my interest. So the Swag Ninja, congratulations on your win this week for the weekly challenge. So you'll be getting the weekly challenge winner role on the Discord server. So congrats. Next up, we got David Katz with this image here. I really liked it. David rendered 2 images, but I picked the one that I felt was best. This feels really nice. I actually feel like pretty cozy in here. It's definitely cold and windy outside, and you can tell from this warm glow there's probably a fireplace going on the inside, which is great. You have a map here, and again, there's kind of a story going on here. It looks, I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a photo book or something, but there's a story, and it piques my interest. I'm wondering, where is this person going? Did they spend all their time getting to this point? But I think this is really nice. I think you did a good job here. And I like your lighting outside. I like your environment. It feels very nice. So congrats to David Katz. You are a challenge winner this week. Next up, guys, we got Mr. Clay. Boom. This is awesome. I really like your lighting here. I think he used, World Creator, I think, to get this really interesting landscape. And I think, as far as I know, World Creator, if I'm right, if you use World Creator, actually sends out different like texture maps for you to say, oh, this part's snow, this part's rock, and it's a really, really in-depth, like, comprehensive program that I want to look into, especially if I'm going to be getting into Unreal. But anyway, I really like this. I like your colors. You got the snow down here, and I really love the way the mountains break up here, and you have the snow in the grooves of the mountains. So, Mr. Clay, congratulations. You are a challenge winner this week. I think it's your first one, so extra congratulations. All right, second from last, we have a render by Visual. This is really cool. You got this nice motion down. You got a spaceship back here rushing through the scene. You can tell that it's kind of windy based on how the snow is falling. And this is a cool little cyborg thing here. You got some nice colors, some very, very subtle, cool colors in the background mixed with your warm tones in the foreground. It's looking very, very nice. And Visual, you always do a really good job, so congrats again on winning this week's weekly challenge. Very, very nice. Last up. I think this is this person's second win. I'm looking at him right now in the chat. He's sitting right there, and he has no idea because there's a lag, there's a delay between what I'm saying and what you guys are hearing. But let's go ahead and congrats Zalumi with this painting. This is your second win, done with a painting again, and I really, really like your work here. Let me do this so I don't know why it's being dumb. Ignore this side business over here, okay? This is awesome. It looks like you did this in Photoshop, and I love the vibes here. It looks like a speed painting. I wonder how long you did this in. But you definitely got the color and you got the emotion, and it feels very fun. And I like how you actually went with a painting instead of a render, because again, at the end of the day, guys, the whole point of this time is to get better at what you love doing, right? And Zalumi loves painting, so he put in a painting for his challenge and won for the second time with another painting. I'm really impressed. This is really cool. So congratulations, Zalumi, for winning this week's weekly challenge. So that's it, guys. That's our 5 winners for the weekly challenge. And if you would like to join the weekly challenge, then I suggest you just go ahead and do so, because it doesn't take anything other than you saying, okay, let's do it this week. You don't have to sign up or anything. The only thing you need to do is follow the rules for the weekly challenge, which I'm about to dish out right now for the next one. And you just have to submit it on the Discord server, which there's a link in the description below for you guys. But, and that's Zalumi's the 3rd time. I apologize. So congrats to everybody. Let's figure out this next challenge. Do we want to do something along the lines of like a secret world or something? to tie it along with today's stream. Or do we want to do, I mean, we could do anything. Secret World is kind of cool because that way, like, it could be like a snow globe. It could be a tiny little room. It could be like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where you go through the wardrobe and you go through the closet and it goes into this different land, you know, or like Winnie the Pooh or something. So maybe Secret World is the challenge this week. I'm feeling that. If you guys are feeling that, give me a thumbs up and we'll do it. I think using the footage, I mean, that if you guys want to go above and beyond and try and use that footage, it's going to be tough because like there's going to be a lot of compositing work to do. And if you just want to focus on the 3D aspect, I'm not going to knock you for not using the footage, but if you want to use the footage, you can and submit the footage. You know, you submit your whole VFX shot. That could be fine. But yeah, let's do it. Secret World. That is the prompt for this week's weekly challenge. The idea is just to create some sort of secret world. Make sure you don't just download some secret world and render it and post it as your submission. That would be kind of lame. Put some time into it and make it your own. Make it cool. We just need a single image. It doesn't need to be a render or anything. Or an animation rather. You gotta let's see, submit a clay render, which is a render without any textures, and you need to submit like a node tree or a viewport, just so I know that it's something that you did, right? Other than that, I think that's about it, guys. I don't know if there's any specific directions or specific notes or rules on this one. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm excited for all the entries I'm going to see throughout the week. But yeah, I hope you guys had a good time. I'm going to get to the store here and grab some barbecue materials. But I hope you guys enjoy your Saturday, enjoy your 4th if you're celebrating, if you're in America. Otherwise, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you guys on the server throughout the week. And I'll be working hard on the next corridor video in the meantime. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. And I will see you all next week. Peace.